So thank you everyone for joining in. I take the pleasure to invite and welcome you all on Enlightened Leadership, this very special session that we are having with Professor Sanjoy Mukherjee.
Yeah.
I'm Shravani Paul, the host for today from New Worlds, and I take the pleasure to welcome Professor Mukherjee, who is an Associate Professor of Sustainability and Liberal Studies, the Academy Group at Indian Institute of Management, Shillong, and is also the chairperson of the Institute's annual International Sustainability Conferences. Professor Mukherjee has been an amazing speaker, orator, and research person who has contributed immensely in the field of human values, Indian ethos, wisdom leadership, management by values. And he was also actually the senior faculty with Management Center for Human Values when I had the chance to be at IIM Calcutta. He has also contributed immensely into the field of business ethics, history and philosophy of management, management of liberal arts, alternative sources and methods of learning, and has lectured in some of the very reputed and top universities and conferences across the world, which includes forums such as Aspen Institute, the Oxford Roundtable, Globethics Geneva, International Society for Business Ethics and Economics, Harvard Business School, Copenhagen Business School, Stockholm Business School, the University of Budapest, Norwegian University, School of Economics at Bergen, UNESCO, Paris, China, Europe, Tel Aviv University, Israel, and many more. So I will run out of breath. His accolades will not stop. So that's Professor Sanjoy Mukherjee for you, ladies and gentlemen.
Namaskar and good evening from India and good morning from United States, to United States. I can see many distinguished people are there, persons are here in the audience review, in the viewers. And with the blessings and best wishes of all who are present, we shall begin this journey. I call it a journey. You know, it's not just a lecture or a deliberation. It's a journey which I have personally undertaken about 28 years back from now. And I will just try to highlight to you some of the snippets, you know, which might be of some use to us in the context of leadership. So friends, we have titled this session Enlightened Leadership. So the adjective enlightened, the key word there is light. And the light is very important here today, because this is the auspicious day of the Guru Purnima. By paying homage to the Guru, we begin this conversation, this journey. Management education in India, and I can see many of my friends who were my batchmates are here. Management education here in India began with collaboration from the West, primarily United States. The first institute to be created was IIM Calcutta, and we are the alumni of it. 1961, in collaboration with the Sloan School of Management, MIT. A few months later came IIM Ahmedabad in collaboration with Harvard Business School. So we have the Western legacy with us in the field of management education and learning. And we have been enriched by them enormously, immensely. At the same time, as times went ahead, we also found the importance and necessity to revive and present to the world what could be some of the Indian thinking and Indian concepts of management. In order to complement the Western insights. So precisely that has been the work which I had been trying to do humbly at the IIM Calcutta for 16 years and at IIM Shillong for the last 12 years. Of course, the background goes a few years back when we were students of IIM Calcutta and we had the opportunity of doing his course on Indian ethos in management. And it is where I felt inspired and went ahead with the pursuit. And finally, to cut a long story short, joined the center as a research fellow. And since then, no looking back. So friends, I will highlight this wisdom of the complementary wisdom of the East and the West in my presentation to some extent. Let's begin with the West. As we said, management education began with collaboration from the West. Let's begin in the West in search of the light of the enlightened management. So it's a very famous episode, very dear to me. 2,500 years back in the streets of Athens in Greece, one fine morning in the marketplace, a very strange thing was happening. One of the most distinguished philosophers of Athens, Diogenes by name, he was found doing a very strange thing. He was holding a lantern and moving around in the marketplace in broad daylight where people were buying and selling. And he was looking at the faces of the people. And he was such a respected person that no one will dare go and ask, "What are you doing, sir?" Finally, a young man picks up the courage and goes and asks. Young people always ask questions, so they always move ahead to ask. So this young boy goes and asks, "Senor, what is it that you're looking for that you can't see in broad daylight with naked eyes? And you need a lantern for that." And the old man dangles the lantern in front of the face of the young man, puts it down, and smilingly says, "My son, among crowds of people, I'm trying to find a human being." It's a very interesting episode, very dear to me also. I learned it in school days. This has multiple implications for us, messages for us. So what are they? See, in the marketplace, what are we doing usually? We're buying and selling. At the time when we are buying and selling, the mind is engaged in calculation. It is externally directed to the marketplace and it is calculated. Now, there could be a question that the old man was looking for a human being and the people in the marketplace were all human beings. So what is the big deal? Yes, we are all human beings. In the marketplace also we are human beings. In the marketplace of life, we are also human beings. No doubt about that. But that humanness which makes us essentially human beings is lodged deeply within each one of us. It's not outside there. It's not out there. It's in here. And during our transactions in the marketplace, which is symbolic of the marketplace of life, the mind is directed inside out. But to explore and revive the humanness within us, the gaze, the attention has to be drawn outside in. Otherwise, we lose touch.
So I have a question.
So we need this interiorization going within of our awareness. I'm not saying it's something bad if we are looking outside, not at all. But in a 24-hour day, if I'm most of the time looking outside, where is my time and space to go within? So unless I spend at least half an hour to be with myself, within myself, the complementarity of the two directions of our energy movement, that means inside out and outside in, the complementarity is not established in life, in work. Yes, Shabuni, you were saying something.
Yes, sir. So I remember when we were in IIM, so you did mention this, story, and also told us about Atma Deepa Bhava, which is light, the light within. And it's all about introspective leadership, which is the first step to self-empowerment, which also leads to competence and compassionate leadership. So I have noticed this in this last many years that, what we had learned years ago, actually literally decades back, from you was so practical in making me understand, my different teams. So I worked with different global teams, and nowhere in the world have I seen that this did not work. Whatever I have learned, what we have learned, it works everywhere, because the human essence, no matter which culture or country we work in, it's still the same. I would actually request you to help us, with some of your experiences that you've had as well. Some of these actual stories where we talk about compassion and compassionate leadership and competence, the balance between the two, and how you are linking that with introspective leadership, which is Atma Deepa Bhava, like you used to
See,
always.
Atma Deepa Bhava was there uh, in my agenda at the end of the journey. So I would have come to it. I said I begin with the West. I'll come back to the East and that is where I would conclude maybe. But yes, the spirit is the same. The spirit is the same. Yes, yeah, because most of the time the attention is inside out. Even if I have that, you talked about competence. This is also our existential competence to be able to turn our energy outside in. This is a basic level of human competence. I'm just giving you an example. The basic process that keeps us living is our breathing, right? And it consists of two directions of movement of air. When we are breathing in, the flow of energy is outside in. It's refreshing us with inputs from outside. At that level, we are outside in. Our energy is going outside in. And this is, again, the next phase is inside out. We breathe out. And together they make the living process. Similarly, at the level of thought, while I'm talking to you, my energy is focused inside out. Now, for that, I need some preparation. In order to be effective outside, I also need to conserve my energies within. Without that, if I just, some people can, but there are many leaders who speak for hours. I have seen many of them. Very senior people in academia. Professors have this, attributed to them. If the microphone is given to them, they won't leave the microphone. They will keep on speaking. But I have seen that there are some of them who are more consolidated, who are more reserved, who have conserved their energies. They use very little words, but make very profound impact, enduring impact, which people remember after 10 years, after 20 years. Whereas some persons, I've seen many people, directors, deans, speaking for hours. After 3 days, you ask the student, they won't remember anything. No impact. The impact is very important. So, and this impact can be made through energy. And one of the ways of creating the impact is this, what we call the word or the vak. The presiding deity of which is, in our classical tradition in India, is Mother Saraswati, who is Vak Devi, the goddess of the word. The word as in the mind, the word as spoken, both. The first, it is in the mind where the word comes, and then it comes through the vocal cord, and then it creates an impact. How many minutes does that famous speech of Swami Vivekananda in Chicago take? Hardly 5 minutes. 5 minutes created history. Even today we talk about it.
Yes, and in Chicago, in fact, I was there last week, and that place where he actually delivered this speech is still visited by people worldwide, because that is the place where Swami Vivekananda made the historic speech, uh,
Yeah.
greeting everyone with brothers and sisters of America. And it is so famous, people even till today visit that place.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree. And in the year 2002, I had the opportunity of being there also. I still remember, there's a plaque outside, which is where it's written, Swami Vivekananda spoke here. And that street, I think that is Madison Avenue, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
At,
the
at, at
Artist
the
Street.
bottom, it's written, Swami Vivekananda Honorary Pathway or something like that. In a red plaque. It's still there. Anyway, coming back, the power of that word is so important. And do you know what happened on that day? I'm just spending a few minutes on this. On that day, when Swamiji was sitting in the Parliament of Religions, by the way, when he came there, he came without any introduction letter. But he impressed a Harvard professor so much that the Harvard professor gave him a recommendation letter saying that the wisdom of this man from India is comparable to the combined wisdom of all our scholars and intellectuals in the United States. And that was the recognition letter for him, recommendation letter for him. He carried that letter and went to speak in the parliament. In the morning, he was asked to speak. He was not ready. People came with ready papers. People came with 10, 12 pages written. He had nothing. So he postponed it, kept on postponing. Once in the morning, once in the afternoon. And finally, later during the day, he was asked, when will you speak? Because the time is running out. And that time, Swamiji himself writes that I closed my eyes. I paid homage to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, number one. And I paid homage to my Guru, Sri Ramakrishna. And I went up without any preparation. And the rest is history. It just came out. So what I'm only trying to say is the power of the word. We can touch a person physically. When someone needs a consolation, we touch that person and it creates an impact. But a spoken word creates impact for thousands and thousands of people over centuries. And Shrabuni, you are right now in the heart of US. I can see my friend Deepak is there, who's in US. It is one single line, I have a dream, by Martin Luther King Jr. One sentence. It moved millions.
Yes.
Such was the power of the word. Again, I don't want to sound provincial or national at all. But there are certain mantras in Sanskrit, even if you speak, utter them with full concentration of the meaning and the power within it. The mantra also has a power, the energy of the consciousness. Together, if we invest in that, the meaning and the power, then it will create impact on the spot. On the spot.
Absolutely.
But that is how you radiate to the light.
Absolutely.
The light or the energy that within you is radiated to the world outside. And it lights up so many others. It lights up so many thoughts. Shabuni was asking about competence and compassion. Now, this is something we used to highlight in our programs. Competence, there is one aspect in which we are quite strong enough by now, thanks to our education system, which we call rational or intellectual competence. And there's a lot of merit in that. But human competence has got several levels and layers. Compassion is not an outcome of an intellectual process. Like in our framework, we used to call skills and values. The skills are more related to the rational competence, which you learn, you update, you apply. And once you apply, the output that you produce is visible to the others. It is tangible, it is visible, it is measurable. But whether a person is improving on values or stagnating on values or deteriorating on values, you cannot make it from outside. The individual himself or herself is the most equipped to know that, if that person is interested in that. So in the domain of values, I'll just give you a couple of examples. For example, you said compassion, gratitude, increasingly becoming a rare commodity. Humility, more increasingly becoming a rare commodity. Some people, some experts I have heard, they say that humility is a weakness. My God. Humility is one of the most formidable strengths of a human being. Humility is not the show of humility. It's a spirit within. It's an attitude which comes from within, right? That yes, I know something, but there are so many other things to know. I don't know all that. Simple humility. Like Newton, who was collecting pebbles on the seashore of knowledge. Right. So, humility, gratitude, compassion, these come primarily from the world of emotions, if I may say. And there was a time in education, management education included, when we were told that don't be emotional, be rational. Correct me, my friends who are there. But today we don't talk about that, because 1996, Harvard established through research that emotional intelligence is important. EQ is important. Yes. Right? So yes, absolutely. There has to be a complementary, competency, rational and emotional, in our all-round development. I'll just mention a couple of things here. Even the negative side, greed, jealousy, which debilitates individuals, which vitiates organizations. They also come from the world of emotions in a different way altogether. We don't think greedy, we feel greedy. As a bong, when a rasagulla is in front of me, I feel greedy, I don't think greedy. When my colleague is going up the ladder and I cannot, I feel jealous, I don't think jealous. So feeling has an important role to play in our development. Very important. Now you see, in our classical literature, I'm not talking about management literature now. Classical literature, you find these emotional, vibrations have been highlighted. Like, for example, the Bible, let's say, blessed are those that are pure in heart. The Bible doesn't say the blessed are those that are brilliant in intellect. Just think about it. 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, time and again, the Lord talks about chitta shuddhi, which is purification or enrichment of emotions. No one is denying the importance of intellect. Please don't misunderstand me. But these two have different roles to play in our development. And one cannot substitute the other. There is a misconception today in the academic world, in the education system, that if you sharpen the intellect, it will take care of your emotional problems. Sorry, no. It doesn't. It requires a different nurturing process altogether. I'll give you a few quick quotes from 4 top-class thinkers of the world, 2 from the West and 2 from the East. 1, Albert Einstein. I quote, "And certainly we should take care not to make the intellect our God. The intellect has a sharp eye for methods and tools, but it is blind to ends and values." Unquote. Certainly we should take care not to make the intellect our God. It has a sharp eye for methods and tools, but blind to ends and values. Quote, unquote, the highest intellect in science, in physics in the 20th century. Coming to India, Swami Vivekananda, quote, "Intellect is blind and cannot move of itself. It is an inactive secondary help. The real help is feeling," unquote. Bertrand Russell, he began his life as a mathematician, evolved to become a philosopher, got the Nobel Prize for literature. Such was his spectrum of, achievements. Quote, "Even more important than knowledge is the life of emotions. Unless men increase wisdom as much as knowledge, increase of knowledge will be increase of sorrow." Unless we increase wisdom as much as knowledge, increase of knowledge will be increase of sorrow. Unquote, Bertrand Russell. And finally, our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, quote, and I know that ultimately man is guided not by the intellect but by the heart. Man often finds reason in support of what he does or wants to do. Finds reason. This is what we call rationalization. So I have already decided that among the 10 people I work with, I will promote one and not the others. Because for some reason, I like that person a little more than the others. Then I go through a performance evaluation format, which has been procured by my organization, paying to the nose from Boston Consulting or McKinsey. And I am intelligent enough to make those slight changes. And finally, that person comes number one and not the others. And I say it's an objective evaluation. Professor S.K. Chakraborty, the person to whom I owe a lot, the pioneer of the human values movement, used to make a wonderful statement, very powerful. It was, it was a shaking statement. He said, no decision is 100% objective in the ultimate analysis. There has to be a subjective content. So you cannot rule out the subjective. What you can do is you enrich the subjective so that it does not become a bias. Right. So this is my humble response to what you were asking about competency and compassion. And today, the week starting Monday, we are having the sustainability conference of IIM Shillong 8th coming. And we have one of the distinguished speakers, the former director of Tata Sons, R. Gopal Krishnan, and IIT Kharagpur grad. He has chosen his topic, how to create organizations which are happy and compassionate. This just next Tuesday, he will speak for an hour on this. Just to give an example.
I must actually thank you for, imbibing these thoughts and feelings and lessons in us at a very early stage of our career when we were literally starting off. So I did my master's in organizational development and have been working in this for the last 16, 17 years plus. But when I recently, last year, when I started my own organization, when I started my own humble firm, and especially after the COVID, when everything was literally, people were in a different state of mind, I started a very simple but a very humble approach in connecting with others on Inspirations and Aspirations. And this is one of those programs that we are doing. We're bringing in industry stalwarts and minds to engage in insightful conversations. And this very thing that you spoke about, sir, that compassion and the feeling and how people, no matter where they are in different industry and profession they belong to, how they connect in a very short time, just probably hardly, not even 6 months. It's just been hardly 3 or 4 months into this. I have had people connecting from from various different universities, from the film industry, people who are not even, in a place where they talk about intellectual growth. I have had very eminent actors who were part of the conversation, people from the military background, people who have been in the corporate setup, people who are in the educational background, people in the medical industry, all coming together for this very purpose of compassionate feeling that we bring in. And the only purpose of Inspirations and Aspirations as I started New Worlds is that no matter which industry or profession we belong to be a better or to be a good professional, one first needs to be a good human being. So no matter what professional, profile we have, as long as we are, contributing some way as a human being into this world, that is what makes our existence more meaningful. So that is, for me, that is success. If it is making an impact to the world, making other people, learn and grow together. It's not like isolated, but learn and grow together. For me, that is success. And I have to owe it to you. And of course, also to my father, Mr. Bimal Pal.
Yeah, I can see him. I can see him there in the audience.
Yes, he's there.
In the viewers. Yeah.
So
he's like my elder brother.
Yes, both of you had imbibed this from my childhood, I must say this way. So I grew up with this thought that success is not a linear, vertical pattern of growth. It cannot be. It's then very becoming very selfish. I'm only looking at myself and the way I grow, and then it ends with me. When I die, it ends with me. But when success becomes contributional effect, where it is compassion and competence, so my learning, whatever I learn, and how I'm channelizing that with the world around, and everyone grows along with it. So that is where whatever I create stays even after I'm died. I die. So even after I'm dead and gone, my contributions still remain in the world. And look at the examples you said. Swami Vivekananda or Mahatma Gandhi or everyone else, Albert Einstein, everyone. Their contribution with their competence and compassion has contributed to stay in this world years and years, even after they physically left this world. So, as you used to tell us about these journeys, and I remember very funny, funny joke that you used to talk about, where people talk about just technical skills and why just technical, management technical skills is not always the right way. There was this guy on the hot balloon. I would really request you to share that, because that used to be some of our most favorite moments at IIM. Please, can you bring that, somewhere and mention that, because I'm remembering my old days, and I look forward to that as well, about just competence, technical competence, and why that is not always enough.
Yeah, I'll just corroborate what you are saying with three quick examples. One is, behind me, can you see a photograph here? Here.
It's a little hazy
this
for
is
me.
Srimad Somendranath Brahmachari, who happens to be my spiritual guide. He's no more physically. My friend is there in the viewers, Shamastri Sen, who have seen him before. So the day I joined IIM Calcutta as a research fellow, that time he was not my Gurudev. And that time I used to know him as a person who used to inspire me. Early hours in the morning, I went to his house in Calcutta and to seek his blessings and saying that I'm joining today. And he told me one thing: whatever you are talking about, values, ethics, etc., or doing your work, always remember to say it with love. But without that, it is not going to be effective. And that love, LOV, is it's not the love as in possession that we usually connote, but something much deeper, which I understood much later. When I was a student of IIM Calcutta, one of we because we belong to Calcutta, sometimes on Saturday evening we'll come back home for some good food and Sunday morning conversations, and we call them Adda in Kolkata. So I was having an Adda on one of the mornings, and I was wearing an IIM Calcutta t-shirt and telling my friends as to what I was learning. So a typical Sunday morning Calcuttan was passing by. Very handsome, tall and fair, kurta and jeans with a sling bag, long beard, long hair. And he stood by me and looked at my t-shirt and asked me, "What are you lecturing on?" Then I told him that we were discussing theories of learning. Those days we were just about to learn those things, cognitive learning, conative learning, action learning, experiential learning, gaga words. So I was telling my friends all that. Then that guy, that very senior, he was about 35 or so that time, much senior to us. He stopped me and saying, "Young man, tell me very simply what is learning." And I fumbled. Then I asked him, "Why don't you tell us?" Then from his sling bag, the jhola, he brings out a piece of paper and a pen, and he writes the word L-E-A-R-N, L-E-A-R-N, learn. After L, he gives a vertical line. And he said, the rest is what? Earn, T-A-R-N, earn. So you earn a lot of things, earn information, earn knowledge, apparently, when you are learning. But it is that L that makes a difference. And what is that L? Again, we look blank, and he wrote L-O-V. And he said, if you earn it with love, that is only learning. Otherwise, however much you earn, if L is absent, it can be earning a lot, but not learning. Sorry. Now, I haven't found a better definition of learning. It's street smart wisdom from Calcutta. Management literature is not talking about that, unfortunately. Anyway, this is just another example. The third example I'm giving you is from, again, the person I talked about, Swami Vivekananda. Towards the end of his life, he was asked a question by his chosen disciple, the Irish lady, Margaret Noble, who later came to be known as Sister Nivedita. She asked him, Swamiji, you belong to an aristocratic family of North Calcutta. You were a product of Western education. You were a student of philosophy. How come you devoted your entire life to a person who came from the village, who did not have any formal education, and who was a worshipper of the black goddess? In our modern management parlance, organizational parlance, there's a complete profile mismatch between the guru and the shishya. So how was that possible? Swamiji gave a one-line answer with a smile. I felt his wonderful love, full stop. Now that one line was the mantra for this entire history to be created. Creating an organization 125 years back almost. Growing and sprawling even today across the world. Serving humanity. Matchless. That one line, mantra. I felt his wonderful love, full stop. So just to corroborate what you're saying. The other point you mentioned about success, I'll just spend a couple of minutes on that. Success can be a lateral shift. Lateral shift, I mean, from 2 cars to 5 cars, it's a lateral shift. From 10 crores to 10 billions, lateral shift. Because it's money after all. There's a vertical lift also. Are we concerned about that? Maslow's pyramid, if you remember, from the basic levels of physiological needs, it goes to self-actualization. Are we going up to that pyramid? How many organizations are promoting that upward movement? And come to think of it, when Maslow was introduced to Indian wisdom later on in his life, he added one step beyond self-actualization, which is not taught in management. And I have read in the famous book, Maslow on Management, it's a huge compilation of his precious essays, that he added one more step, one more level, self-transcendence, which is what our Upanishads are talking about. Going beyond the material self. So friends, success will always come. The other side is failure. One of the problems we had in modern education system, we are only hammering for success. Success is important, it's good. But when the failure comes, are we ready to accept that? Are we ready to learn from it, more importantly? The best of people in the creative world have learned from their failures. Think of Vincent van Gogh, 37 years of life. During his entire lifetime, not a single portrait by him was auctioned or sold. It all happened after his death. Did it stop his creative outputs? At the age of 25, Beethoven came to learn that his auditory organs were impaired, couldn't hear. He was running around in the Vienna woods looking for inspiration. Finally, he came back and composed some of his best, including the 9th Symphony. During the time 1901 to 1910, Rabindranath Tagore lost his wife, his daughter, and his youngest son. Personal debacles, one after the other. Did it stop his creative output? So friends, when we are talking about success, let us also be ready how to accept the failures, how to learn from the failures, so that when the failures come, we don't land up in mental health clinic. Right?
Yeah.
That's why beyond success and failure, there is something else which we call perfection. Success and failure both depends on a number of factors, some of which are extraneous beyond us. I can put in my best, but something else may happen. I'll tell you, I can, my friends were there, Anjan and Deepak, my batchmates in IIM Calcutta. The time I was best prepared for IIM, I did not get through a CAT. The time I was not prepared at all, I got through CAT. How would you explain? Come on. Anyway, just a personal example. Coming back, perfection is a much more, sensible and sane approach towards life. Just striving for perfection is entirely dependent on me, irrespective of the others. So just think of that. Not just success and failure. Success, when it comes, welcome. But are we ready to learn from the failures also? Are we prepared for both? So that success does not get into my head. That creates a problem in the organization. And are we ready to learn from failures? Combining both, can we prepare ourselves for perfection? This is something which I thought I would share. Please go ahead, Shravani.
Right. I actually am relating a lot of the things that I have been doing in the past with what you are talking about, because some weeks ago I shared a personal quote of mine saying that success is like salt. Failure is like salt. A pinch of it added to our experience makes success taste so much better, but a little bit of failure helps us learn and grow and makes us better. I would like to mention a very special person here who is with us, Brigadier Kapil Chand. He's also one of my mentors. And he was heading the directorate of NCC, West Bengal and Sikkim when this was again long time back, 15 years back or 10 years back. And we were training cadets who were preparing to go for IIM. And one thing that I prepared my cadets with was to accept failure with grace, learn from it, and to get better. Brigadier Chand can actually tell you about, what is it that we made out of that. But now most of the cadets we had, they are majors, so they are all commissioned officers. And I would request sir if he can actually tell us what was the journey like in brief. So would you like to tell us what it felt like and what was our success or achievement things that we had at that point of time?
Can you please come again? I missed a few words.
I was actually requesting another gentleman we have here, Brigadier Kapil Chand, who is actually one of my ex boss. He was the Indian the NCC corps for the Indian Army. In fact, the tri-services at that point of time. And we were preparing the cadets to join the forces. Now, most of the cadets, they are all commissioned officers. In fact, my cadets are now majors. And one of the things that we used to prepare them for, that, prepare and deliver your best. But in case if you're not getting where you are, don't stop trying. And just to give a little brief, idea of what the achievements were. For the 2 years that I was associated with them, our cadets were the best cadets in the country, competing against 17 different directorates, and probably, I don't know how many lakhs of cadets used to actually compete that. They were awarded the Best Cadet Awards in New Delhi at RDC, and most of them are commissioned officers right now. So that was something we brought in, that put in your best, foot forward. But in case if you have trouble, or in case if you don't taste success the way you want to, don't give up. Just keep striving and you will learn in the process. I would actually now like to ask our participants if they would like to share, some of their experiences or any of your life journeys or something where you would associate, where, even if you didn't really succeed, but there was a beautiful learning lesson and that has helped you to succeed later in life. If anyone would like to just share your experiences from there.
Yeah, I think we should wait to listen from Mr. Kapil Chand, right?
Yes, I think sir is on. I don't know if sir is able to hear us.
We would love to hear, because
I'm really not sure if he's able to hear us. So I really wanted him to share his thoughts, because he's
muted. Just ask him to unmute.
I have asked him to unmute. Just hoping. I don't know.
Yeah, we can see him. We can see him.
Sir, can you hear us? Kapil sir, can you hear us? Can you please unmute yourself?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm unmuted, but I missed out because of poor net
Connectivity.
connection.
Yes, so we were actually discussing about the balance of failure and success and how we learn, even if it is from our failures. And I was talking about the, the pre-RDCA competition stage where you had appointed me to train the cadets. And literally, we started from a place where we didn't know how to go about it and how the journey came in those 2 weeks and what was the result. We want to hear it from you because you were heading the directorate then. So Kapil sir was then the Directorate General and Deputy Directorate General, and he's the person who worked for the success of the directorate in many ways. So, sir, we would like to hear from you what was the experience like and how we went ahead with that.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Kapil Chand, and I can't tell you Shavoni's methods. They're secret. They belong to her. And she's the best one. She's the most qualified to tell you what happened. But yes, she took raw NCC cadets, a boy and a girl, who were fairly intelligent, and she groomed them. She groomed them that they became the best cadet in India, a boy and a girl. And how she groomed them was constant. It was constant, 24 hours interaction, motivation, inspiration. Of course, a number of other factors were there. And she kept doing that all the time. I was at a distance. I didn't know what was happening. So Shavoni is the best person to tell you about the methods. But I allowed her to do whatever she wanted to do. There was no monitoring, no supervision. This is your baby, you handle it.
I'm
very grateful that Shavoni did it.
I have a very simple question. So there were at least 44 or 45 trainers whom you had interviewed, as you told me then. What made you choose me? So you interviewed all of them. What made you choose me? I was probably the youngest that time.
Yeah. What we had a board. There were 3 officers, and we chose you because you were the least likely.
So Professor Mukherjee,
you weren't the normal kind of trainer. You weren't the standard kind of trainer. You didn't have a method. We said the least likely will put in a little more effort. Otherwise, you're bound following certain patterns, what you already have in your mind. Yeah, you were fresh.
Yes.
So you applied yourself. Yes. And you got the results.
And this
I'm sorry, I can't give you more insight than that.
That's okay. But that actually sums up what Professor Mukherjee was talking about, where we learn with love. That's where we earned that experience with love. And I loved that experience, I must say. It has been guiding me and motivating me even till today. So, yes. So, Professor Mukherjee, back to you. I would leave it back to you, but I just wanted to share this little case study, this experience, because this is something which exactly happened with us. We learned or earned with love, so that was something I really wanted to share. And back to you. We just want to hear more from you and how.
I would like simply say that to Kapilji and you that there was a time when I spent a lot of time with army people, because a lot of the lessons on leadership, communication, crisis management, stress management, we can get very deep, powerful, live insights from them.
Yes,
not just research and theory, as academics would do.
True.
I had been when I was in IIM Calcutta. I remember many of the people from the armed forces used to come and attend our program, and we had been invited by them. So we spent time with them in their places and learning from them.
Absolutely, that's true. We also have with us Colonel Girish. I think he has joined on iPhone. So, Girish, can you hear us? Would you like to share something? And he has actually just moved into the corporate sector very recently. He has probably just signed into the corporate life, I think just a week ago. So, Girish, can you hear us? I don't know where is he. So let me just.
He's
Hello?
using his iPhone, I can see.
Yes.
He just introduced himself to all of us saying Girish from Mumbai. So
Yes.
I'm sure.
Can you please unmute yourself, Girish? So he was in Calcutta. In fact, I think, if I'm not wrong, he was in Calcutta. His last posting was in Calcutta. He just moved out and moved into Amazon as a senior person. Girish, are you able to hear us? Can you please unmute yourself?
Hi, Shavoni. Hi, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
are. Like to please turn your camera on?
Uh, there is an issue here because I'm not in a very conducive place where I can turn on the video.
Okay.
So, yeah, my house is in a shambles right now. I've just moved to Thane and my entire truck has just reached my residence at Mumbai.
Okay. So just wanted to
all
hear.
good. I can open the video.
So we just wanted to hear about your experience, where you are recently, freshly out of the forge, out of the army, and you just moved into the corporate life. So what are the experiences, the lessons, and the things that you're carrying with you? And you think this is something that's going to really help you even in your next phase of journey?
See, I spent most of my life in uniform. So I'm right now 42 and I joined a hostel, Sainik school when I was at the age of 10. So almost 32 years I've been wearing my uniform. So there's a lot of things that's been ingrained over the last 3 decades, starting from Sainik school and then the National Defense Academy and then the IIMA and then 21 years of the army. So, however, the transition that I've been fortunate to get, that's in a corporate where most of the leadership principles are more or less similar to what we follow in the army. However, there is still a lot that I have to learn. But what will definitely hold me strong, I believe, is the ability to earn the trust of the workforce. And that goes without saying, leadership and ownership of any issue that's given to me. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Girish, you are.
Yeah. So in the army, they do say that leaders aren't born, they're made, they're groomed. So we've been groomed over the last 2 decades, and I'm sure that will hold me in good stead, for one. And second, of course, it's a double-edged sword, discipline. Yeah. Yeah, that will also definitely hold me in good stead because I believe there's still a very, very large number of people outside who value time, both theirs and the other person's. So I'm sure these 2 aspects will definitely hold me in good stead. Yes. Is there anything other than this that you would like to ask specifically? I'd be very happy to answer. Otherwise, I should not be taking Sir's time away in this forum. Yeah.
It's okay. Well, thank you so much, Girish. Yes, I think, those few things that you mentioned, these are very important. In fact, what Professor Mukherjee was also talking about some time back is experiential learning, when we earn and learn through experience. So I'll again probably mention one of my previous projects. So I was heading one of the projects in Cognizant Technologies at that point of time. And we had an issue where our training teams, no matter how well we did, it was typically the classroom kind of training, but somehow business was not being very satisfied. So business wanted to have some more competent people on the floor. And we actually had 2, gentlemen from the Ministry of Defense who were assigned to us. And I would again like to thank Brigadier Chand for playing a very pivotal role in that. And we had Lieutenant General Vinod, I'm forgetting his name. Sorry? Vinod Bhatia. Yes, Vinod Bhatia and Colonel Chawla. So they were actually there with us with Cognizant for a few months on that project, helping us to learn experiential learning, how to basically shift methodology, no matter even if the effectiveness of the program remains the same, shift methodology and help our trainees learn. And we were able to cut down on the time from 18 weeks, we came down to 14 weeks of training, and the impact was immense. And in fact, what HR told us was there was also a very good rate of retaining the young joinees. The attrition rate in the first year was actually a little high comparatively. But when they stayed back, they actually had very fruitful journeys. So that was something we learned from the army, which is learn with experience. And that's something I totally must say that the military experiences teach us. So I think, Girish, you will be person who can actually bring in those fresh lessons into the corporate right now. So back to Professor Mukherjee. Sir, tell us a little few more things about, the influences of the West on the East and the East on the West, as you see, because you're globally everywhere.
Can you, am I unmute? No?
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. So now I would slowly come to the East a little. No, I'm not sure whether you're, many of us know that Guru Purnima also happens to be the date or the, Advent Tithi of the great sage Vyasadeva, who was the composer of Mahabharata, who was the composer of Bhagavad Gita, who was the composer of many texts. And today, Guru Purnima is celebrated on the day of advent of sage Vyasa, the great Indian sage. So I am tempted to share a couple of insights from one from the Upanishads and one from the Bhagavad Gita, very quickly. See, many people ask this question, the West is material and the East is spiritual, but how do they meet? First of all, there is something grossly wrong in that categorization. I have met during my last 30 years of my life, many Westerners who are so deeply, ingrained in Indian wisdom and Indian thought that many Indians, educated Indians, cannot even think of. Deeply spiritual persons. So this categorization does not work anymore. So the question is, we have simultaneously both the aspirations. Many people will tell you that, you go for spiritual pursuit. The material will come on its own, but the Upanishads do not say this. This is something I learned from my Gurudev, whose photo I told you in the background. And, I'll briefly mention his background was what? Not a usual Babaji of the market. Sorry. He was a BC Roy gold medalist from IIT Kharagpur. 1968 batch, best all-rounder of his batch. He was the topper of mechanical engineering of his batch. He was an ace footballer of his batch. And he worked in the corporate for 10 years, rose to a very high position in a multinational. At the age of 32, under the guidance of his Gurudev, he left everything for spiritual pursuit. So he knew the language of the modern people. So, and that's how we came to know from him. And he used to tell us the Upanishads, specifically referring to the Isha Upanishad, which is the first Upanishad that you come to know, the Isha Upanishad. There are 18 verses, and there you find this, priority has been laid down very clearly. It says that if you pursue material knowledge to the exclusion of spirit, your life will end up in darkness. I'm not going to the Sanskrit. If you pursue material knowledge to the exclusion of spirit or spiritual wisdom, life ends in darkness. If you pursue spiritual wisdom to the exclusion of material knowledge, your life is going to end up in deeper darkness, deeper. The Upanishad is very clear about the priority. So you first build the material foundation, and on that you build the superstructure of spirituality. And that is why you found Swami Vivekananda mentioning very clearly, religion is not for the empty stomach. I am not here to talk about spirituality to the Indian masses who are deprived, who are hungry, millions of Indians. No. Get them some food, get them some good health first, get them some education. Okay. So this priority is very important. First, build a material foundation and then go to spiritual wisdom. One, Bhagavad Gita. I'll just mention one thing, in terms of leadership. See, in chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita is very interesting. The Lord does not speak here. Chapter 1, Lord does not speak. Arjuna speaks and says that, please place my chariot in the middle so that I can have a look at the enemy. And there the Lord plays a trick. He could have placed the chariot in front of Duryodhan, Dushasan, any of the Kaurava brothers. But he did not. He chose one particular place. Bhishma Drona Pramukhata, in front of the two senior citizens. My Gurudev used to say it was the earliest case of wrong parking. So he placed it there knowing fully well that this guy is going to collapse. Arjuna knew very well that he is going to fight these people. They are in the opposite camp. But knowing something is one cup of tea. Seeing them in front of you is a different ballgame altogether. So when he sees that, he collapses and says, I'm not going to fight. Chapter 2, the Lord starts speaking. The first statement by the Lord, the first statement, chapter 2, is a question and a blast. Here you'll find a difference between our modern so-called therapists and counselors. When someone is in trouble, counselors go and try to, understand, give a passionate hearing. No, nothing like that. Full blast the Lord gives. From where did this crisis come to you, O Arjuna? Full blast. And then he asks a question. From where did it come? You have to go and find out. It doesn't suit the Aryan blood. No. He just blasts him off. And it begins with a question. From where did it come means you have to go to the root of the problem. The source of the problem is not, the Kurukshetra is not outside. Kurukshetra is there within you, inside. The Kurukshetra is not just a physical reality in Haryana. Kuru means action. Kshetra is, context. Any context of action is Kurukshetra. And where you and I are Arjunas, we are compelled to respond. Right. So he starts with a question. Goes into the entire discourse for 17 chapters, 1 plus 17, 18. Ends his discourse in chapter 18 with again two questions. The last statement by the Lord, again two questions. Have you listened to me with single pointed attention? Question 1. Has it cleared your problem that attacked you in the beginning? So my friends, see, the Lord, after his lecture, is asking for feedback. Thousands of years back. Sage Vyasa's composition, the Bhagavad Gita, it is so different from any other wisdom literature text. Usually what you find, when the master is there, the guru is there, the disciples are sitting around, the disciples ask questions, the guru answers, the master answers. Usually this is the, trend which is followed in most wisdom literature. Bhagavad Gita is uniquely exceptional in this, where the repository of wisdom, the master, first is silent leadership. Does not speak, introduces a crisis, introduces willfully a crisis, and then to take the protagonist out of the crisis, begins a conversation. The first statement in the conversation is a question. Goes to the entire discourse. At the end, finally, chapter 18, sloka 72, he concludes his discourse with two questions. Beginning with question, ending with question. You matchless in the entire spectrum of wisdom literature of the world. This is why Bhagavad Gita. So sorry, I thought of passionately celebrating this with you because today is the birthday of the composer of the Bhagavad Gita, the sage Vyasa. So begin with question and end with question. This is what learning is all about. We are talking about learning sometime back. This is what learning is all about. Help the people to ask the questions. If a mediocre teacher is one who gives the answers in front of the students, but that stops their learning. If you give the answer, that stops their journey. We started with the concept of journey. The student's journey stops. The real good students are those who will wait for you to give them the right questions, who will help you to find your answers, but they will be your answers. And once you find your answers as a student, your journey becomes rewarding, enjoyable. It's an adventure that you enjoy. It's not that you parrot out the master or the guru. You find your own, answers yourselves. 10 days before his death, the great poet Rabindranath Tagore wrote a poem. He didn't actually write the poem. He dictated the poem because he was in his deathbed, hardly able to sit down and write. So he dictated a poem, short poem. It says, the first day's sun in the beginning of life asked a question, who are you? No answer came. Year after year went by. The last day's sun, the last question asks, on the western seashore, in a silent evening, who are you? There was no answer. Tagore, 10 days before his death. This was 27th of July, 1941, 7th of August, which is coming very soon, he passed away. 10 days before his death. Another Nobel laureate closer to our times, just to shift the context a little, friends, make it more contemporary. Another Nobel laureate of recent times, Bob Dylan, one of my favorites in lyrics and music. He wrote a masterly composition where he asked 9 questions, but he never gave you the answer for these 9 questions. All the 9 questions are value-related questions. How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? How many seas must a white dove sail before it sleeps in the sand? How many times must a cannonball fly before they are forever bland? How many years must a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? And how many times can a man turn his head to pretend that he just cannot see? How many times can a man look up before he can see the sky? And how many years must one man have before he can hear some people cry? And how many deaths will it take to realize that too many people have died? 9 questions. At the end of every 3 questions, he gives an assurance. No answers, gives an assurance. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. It's for you, friends, to find your answers. If you find your answers, your journey becomes enjoyable. You become a great learner, and you will transmit it to the people. To have the freedom and joy of learning. No, this is very important. Many people think that, so-called enlightened leadership or spiritual leadership, if I may call it, it's an arduous task. Not at all. We have learned from our great masters. I have learned from my master. It's such an enjoyable journey. Every moment you explore yourself, every moment you question yourself, revisit your own plans, revisit your frameworks, and challenge yourself and evolve a better person tomorrow, a greater person tomorrow. So that is what, friends, is about learning. Learning for freedom, learning for joy. And this is where, and that when you come to that, pinnacle of that learning, the only expression of that one is love. Love means expression of abundance to the others. You share your knowledge. You are not talking about, the Indian sages have not talked about copyrights, my friends. Upanishads is there for everyone. For any one of you, you come and access it. Take the knowledge. They'll be too glad to share that with you. They are not interested in copyright. I see PowerPoints by great IIM professors. Every page of that PowerPoint, copyright, see. Anyway, friends, sorry. Now, this is what I wanted to share, that let's, make it a joyful experience of freedom in the entire process of learning. And that's where and it makes you humble. It makes you loving, it makes you humble. That is what Shabani was talking about when she mentioned about this famous dictum of Lord Buddha. The episode is like this. Buddha was old that time, before his death. He was sitting in front of his disciple, Ananda. And Ananda was a young, ebullient disciple. He is saying that, my Lord, today I know that of all the sages and prophets that have come to the earth, you are the greatest, because your messages are relevant to humanity like no one else's before. I had been fortunate enough to sit at your feet and learn those messages. Now I seek your blessings, your permission, so that I can spread your message to the world. Very confident young man. Buddha is quiet for some time. After some time, he starts speaking very quietly. Again, he asks 5 questions. First, my dear Ananda, you said I am the greatest of all sages and prophets. But do you know all of them? All of them? Silence. Next question. Whoever you know, have you read all their messages? Again, silence. Third question. Whichever messages of theirs you have read, have you understood the full meaning of those messages? Silence. Fourth question. Have you understood the full meaning of all my messages that you learned for so many years? Again, silence. The final nail in the coffin. Last question. Then what is the basis of your confidence that tomorrow you will go and spread my message to the world? A young man collapsed completely. The vibrant, buoyant young man completely collapsed and cried, touching the feet of the Lord. What do I do, my Lord? Please tell me. And then Buddha, with his benign smile, and said, Atmo Dipo Bhavo. Be a light to yourself. Atmo Dipo Bhavo means be a light to yourself. And when we are able to kindle that light, then no need for publicity. No promo campaigns needed. Like the radiance of the sun, like the fragrance of the flower, it will automatically spread to the world. Now, my students often ask me, sir, we are only talking about Vivekananda, Tagore. No, they are all great people. Martin Luther King, great people. Unfortunately, I have seen so much of mediocrity in the academic world that I'm sorry, I took my recourse, I took my anchor in the great people. They inspired me. Can't help it. That's my way of evolution. But I tell them that even for us, Tagore had given us a guideline, a 4-line beautiful poem. It says, the sun is setting in the western horizon. It looks at the world and says, I am leaving now. Who's there now to show the light? The world is silent. It's darkness all around. In a far corner, a little lamp lights up and says, sir, I will do the best that I can. So I tell myself and I tell every one of you, we cannot be maybe Vivekananda's or Tagore's or Martin Luther King's, Gandhi's or whatever. But can we be at least become each one of us a little lamp? Altogether, 1,000 little lamps will light up the whole world. So I thought I'd share with you. Now, Stabani, you can go on. If you whatever you want to share.
I'm overwhelmed again, because I this is something which sir, you as well as I've learned this from my father as well, that whatever we can, even if it is adding 2 drops in the ocean, but we still keep doing that. And I feel very overwhelmed to think that I'm still on the path which was shown by both of you. I would actually leave, the house open to everyone and request all of you for your thoughts, to share your thoughts. If you have any questions which you want to ask to Professor Mukherjee, it would be nice. But we would like to hear from you. Share something, your experience, if not just from this session, but something from your life which you think is, very related to enlightened leadership. So I actually open it up to everyone, please. Shamasri Auntie, if you like to go first, because it would be really nice to hear from you.
I'm really overwhelmed this evening. I mean, I've always admired the way Professor Sanjoy Mukherjee places his thoughts, and I think he is a true disciple of Shomenda. That was a man who could inspire even a person like me, who was not much of a believer till she met Shomenda. And he had his own very strange ways of, doing things by which he could put things into your own mind and make you decide whether you want to take it or you don't want to. And as far as enlightened leadership is concerned, I've done a lot of theoretical studies on this and tried to really understand what it really is, because I see so little enlightenment in this whole world right now. I mean, very few people can be like you or Sanjoy. Most people are extremely materialistic, and leadership to them is like, okay, I got the power now. So, this evening has given me a lot of humility, and I've understood there were times when I also made mistakes being a leader of an organization. But I think I kind of followed what Sanjay was trying to talk about today. I'm glad those were my, I always say that I'm not a trained management person or anything. I learned everything in my kitchen. So I used to tell everyone that you guys have done so much of management studies or higher education in leadership and all kinds of trainings. My training came from my kitchen, the simple ideas of life. And I think those tally a lot with what Sanjay says, and a lot of it I owe to Shomenda, whom I used to keep on bugging all the time. I used to go to his house, his flat in Salt Lake. He was quite close to me in those times. So it was easy for me to go, and he would ply me with his Kalo Thanda coffee, which he claimed was my favorite. It became my favorite because he claimed it was my favorite. And he would say, Shamashri khub roga hoye gache. Give her all the cashew nuts and good nuts that have come, and the all those nice things that my disciples have sent. They're actually for her, so give them to her. And I would tell him, yeah, really, I really do need all this. But in between all that fun, he had that thing which Sanjoy has imbibed, that talking about different stories, he makes you understand exactly where we are and what we need to be to understand what leadership is all about. And leadership is not at all about boasting about a position that you have. It is about being able to bring about great changes in people, making them better in their lives, and thereby being better by your own self. I mean, without taking credits, without posting about it. I'm really grateful to both of you for this evening. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
And
Thank
so
you.
nice after so many years. And you look beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled. I would like to request someone else if you can share your thoughts and your journey. This is how you felt this, because we are just making an effort to see how relevant we have been this evening. Anyone?
Can I say something?
Yes, yes, sir. Absolutely.
I would request one of my very senior ex-Tata executive, someone whom I respect a lot, very dear to me, Colonel Alan Burby. I find in the viewers, who had worked on business ethics in the Tata Group for a long spell, and we are very good friends. Colonel, would you like to say something? It would be really an honor.
Good evening, everyone. Our side of the world, good morning to everyone. Our side of the world and the other side as well. Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much, Shabani Paul, and thank you everyone that's spoken. I'm absolutely stunned. And I'm short of words, so I hope you will respect that. I don't have much to say, and I'm extremely enthused and would like to stay connected with any one of you through the professor. I'm short of words. I'm absolutely stunned. Thank you. Thank you so very much, everyone. Yes.
Thank you. Kapil sir, you wanted to share something.
Yes, just one or two lines. In front of you, articulate people, the less I say, the better it is. Thank you very much, Professor Mukherjee, Shabani, and I can't pronounce some names. But what I understood from my experience is, and what I've always taught, a leader is a servant of the led. once you keep that principle in mind, that you're just a servant of the people you're leading, I think everything falls into place. All the humility, humbleness, compassion will come in. But somehow the ego interferes, and that doesn't happen. When the power comes, you forget that. And when you forget that, there are prices to pay. But I'm very happy to have heard you all, especially Professor Mukherjee. It's been a delightful experience. I've enjoyed. I don't participate in these kind of discussions often. So it was very good to hear Professor Mukherjee. And you already, I know you, so it was very interesting listening to you. But I'm very happy to hear Professor Mukherjee.
He's always a pleasure to listen to. I've heard him in my early days when I was in my bachelor's and my early days in my master's, and it's still a pleasure to listen to sir all the time. So
definitely, lovely listening to Professor Mukherjee.
Absolutely. I would actually now request another person who's very special to me, because he's the first guru I was ever introduced to the day I was born. My father, Mr. Bimal Pal, who is right here with us, but I don't know if he's audible. Can you please unmute yourself and share some thoughts?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Well, I personally feel, first of all, I truly enjoyed Professor Mukherjee, whom I knew from many years, and in particularly the voyage of MCHV, when Professor Sitanshu Chakraborty, another guru of Professor Sanjoy Mukherjee, and also me, I used to go many corporate houses to beg money to build MCHV. But truly, Professor Mukherjee is someone who welcomed me inside the premises and allowed me to go through the library and everything. And as I see the text of his voice today, what I have noted, that he summarized so many things and delivered to us today and made the evening so much enjoyable. So that is very important for anyone who directly today enjoyed the program. I also enjoyed the comments of Brigadier Chand, Kapil Chand, who also spoke good words in favor of ceremony. But Professor Mukherjee's all the keynote speech in Raila programs, which inspired many young children. And really, I wish that this is not enough. More programs of this kind of evening should be created, and we can listen to Professor Mukherjee more and more, because all the texts are not easily, one can conceive and realize unless they listen to people like a person like Professor Mukherjee. My congratulations to all the participants who enjoyed this program like me. And I'm sure that this kind of program will inspire many young people of the coming days, especially in this pandemic situation. This is one kind of effort I think can reach all of us. I found, I think Aniruddha was also there from Rotary.
I'm still around. Vimalda, thanks for a fascinating experience. And I should also like to thank Shravani for asking just the right questions, which provoked Professor Mukherjee to give the answers which he did.
Yeah, she started her Rotaract career in Rotary Club of Calcutta. But then, many such programs as a project director she conducted during her Rotaract days. But even now, I think this is one such program, or this kind of illuminating program should touch more young people, because we are growing, we are going, and age is defeating us gradually. So I'm sure that Professor Mukherjee's voice should reach more number of youth. He spoke about Vivekanand. He spoke about Vyasdev, and so much of Ishopanishad. And these texts, are essential for all of us to understand. The world is corrupted, absolutely corrupted world. And now that some cleansing effort should be there from all of us.
I actually would like to mention a thought which was shared in IIM, like in early 2001 or 2. I don't know. Professor Mukherjee shared that we were, I mean, even the very eminent people whom we quote in our, sessions, they were not born that. They became that by the sheer, effort as becoming an enlightened leader, by the sheer effort. So as a baby, they were not born that way, became that. So we all have a role to play in learning every day, each day, and making ourselves just a better version of ourselves and just contributing to the world around. So that is something Professor Mukherjee had shared long ago, I think, and I still carry that with me. Hope my little humble effort of bringing or organizing this program today has been liked by all of you. So we would keep engaging, and I would request if any one of you have any feedback which can help us make this better, please share. I would totally welcome your thoughts and feedback.
So, Shabuni, from my side, I need just 2 minutes. One, to thank you and so much. Someone who had heard me 20 years back comes back to me and asks me to speak. I am really honored and I'm grateful, that you have remembered, and the messages have gone deep within you. And it's one of the main reasons is because the person who's there right now in front of me, whom I treat as my elder brother, Mr. Bimal Pal, from whom I have always received his, love and blessings all throughout my journey, which began a long decades back. I would like to mention only 2 things here. One is, enlightenment. Enlightened leadership is about enlightened men. Enlightenment is not something, one day you sit under a tree and light falls. No, not at all. No, it's a gradual process. It's a constant. You build up yourself, and finally it dawns on you. And there's a beautiful poem I read during my college days. I would like to quote that. People think that they're going to change the world. The enlightenment is not about that. It says, before enlightenment, mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers. Before enlightenment, mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers. During enlightenment, mountains are no more mountains. Rivers are no more rivers. That's when we are changing, when we are going through the process of re-examining ourselves. And finally, after enlightenment, the poem says, after enlightenment, mountains are once again mountains, rivers are once again rivers. And what has changed? The question may be asked. The way we look at the world has changed. The way we perceive the world has changed. Millions of people are taking pandemic as a kind of a threat, as a crisis. Friends, the few people sitting here, can we perceive the same pandemic as an opportunity for us to grow and learn? Telling you very honestly, last 1.5 years during pandemic, I have written so much as I have not written in the last 12 years of my stay in IIM Shillong. One book, so many articles, another book in the offing. It all happened because of the pandemic. I'm staying all alone in Shillong. Today I'm in Calcutta for a few days only. But I was in Shillong most of the time, 9 months. Thinking, reading and writing. Opportunity. Whether you will convert that crisis into an opportunity, it's your call. And finally, Shaboni and Bimalda and my very old good friend Shamosri and my very dear Rotarian, I can see Anirudh Dodab. I am very happy that you are here today. Thank you so much for your presence.
Pleasure.
So, the Indian concept of seva, again coming back to the Indian concept, is very different from the service notion we have from the West. Very different. Western notion of service, as we understand in service industry, if I offer a service and you receive the service, then you are the prime beneficiary because you are receiving the service. That is the usual modern notion, the Western notion of service. Even that is true for India also, in our industry. The notion of seva is very different. Just the opposite. It says that if I am offering the service and you are receiving the service, then I am the prime beneficiary of that act of service. Why? Because you have given me an opportunity to serve. Otherwise, I would have gone wasted. Who would have listened to me? Who would have been there to speak to me? You are there because you have helped me to articulate, to speak out. So I am grateful to you. I am the prime beneficiary of the act of service. It makes the whole act of service a completely different turn altogether. It becomes a noble, vocation. It's not just, someone is down there and you are giving benefits to that person, and you are, you're looking at the person with a condescending look and giving something for help. No.
So this reminds me of the last lines that you used to share with us at IIM, when you used to just let us breathe and stop and then breathe out. And that was the basic thing. And you would tell us.
Yeah, that's about giving. That's about giving.
And to withhold is perish.
Yeah. There's this beautiful poem by Khalil Gibran in that famous book, The Prophet. There are those who give with joy and that joy is their reward. There are those who give with pain and that pain is their baptism. You often say, I will give, but only to the deserving. But the trees in your orchard say not so, nor the flocks in your pastures. They give so that they may live. To withhold is to perish. To withhold is to perish. This is so the basic process of life is, as we said earlier, is breathing. So if I take a breath, I take a deep breath. I've taken it now. If I choose not to give, what happens? Just think. So you give so that you may live. To withhold is to perish. This is something which, learn lessons from life, not just from books, from life. Shaboni, thank you. And I hope to be with you once again later on.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
We can have many other, areas on discussion.
Hey, I was just about to put in a two and a bit. I found Shamosri nodding her head very vigorously when you were discussing about service. And that is probably summing up the principle of service, followed by us Rotarians. Bimalda would also bear me out. That we have been blessed to be given the opportunity to serve, not the other way around.
Yes. And we've been taught that also, that when you serve, you should thank the person you're serving because you got that opportunity to serve a person.
Precisely.
That you're not doing a favor. It's not this way, it is this way.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Lovely session. Excellent.